This remarkable story happened to young Amelia Berger, who lived with her husband Thomas on the edge of a forest in a quiet mountain village in Switzerland. Their home was the last one before the wilderness began, perched at the very edge of the village, where the snowy peaks and endless forest took over. Amelia was in the final month of her pregnancy, their first child, long awaited and deeply cherished. She had lost 2 pregnancies early on, and now the couple hardly dared to breathe, afraid to disturb the fragile joy that had finally arrived at their doorstep. Thomas served in a specialized mountain rescue unit in the army, dedicated to helping people trapped in dangerous conditions. His work was risky but essential. He was often called to places no regular rescue team could reach. His emergency backpack was always ready so he could leave any time, day or night. Amelia often thought about the day they met 5 years ago. She'd gotten lost while hiking, and it was Thomas who found her after 2 terrifying days. From that moment on, she never underestimated the power of the mountains. But fate had other plans. It was no different this time. The phone rang at 3 a.m. Thomas listened silently to his commander, nodding occasionally as though the caller could see him. A group of tourists had gotten trapped on a mountain pass after an avalanche. They needed immediate help. He was deeply worried about Amelia. The baby was due in 2 weeks, but he had a strong feeling that nature had its own timeline. "I'll call my parents," he said while quickly packing his gear. "They'll come stay with you until I'm back." His parents lived in a nearby village about 2 hours away. They were warm, down-to-earth people who adored Amelia. But as soon as Thomas left, Amelia called them and gently told them not to come. "Really, Martha," she told her mother-in-law, "I'm feeling fine and they're predicting heavy snowfall. I don't want you risking the drive." The truth was, Amelia just needed to be alone. She loved Thomas's parents, but something inside her told her she needed space, to prepare herself, to think. She also felt an unease she couldn't explain. And just as the forecast warned, a snowstorm rolled in the next day, blanketing everything in white. Fierce winds uprooted trees and damaged the village's cell tower, cutting off all communication with the outside world. That evening, Amelia felt the first contractions. At first they were light and irregular. She thought they might just be Braxton Hicks, but soon they grew stronger and more frequent. Her heart sank. The baby wasn't waiting. It was coming now, in the middle of a blizzard while she was alone. She tried to stay calm. Her backup plan was simple. A medical assistant named Mr. Jenkins lived in the next village. He had experience with emergency births and wasn't far, just a 20-minute drive. She dressed warmly, packed the essentials into a small bag, and stepped into the icy wind. Snowflakes stung her cheeks as she made her way to the car, a small 4-wheel drive. Jeep parked outside. She got in, started the engine, and headed toward the road. But less than a mile in, the car sputtered and stopped. The tank was empty. Amelia hit the steering wheel in frustration. "Thomas meant to fill it yesterday," she whispered, holding back tears. There was no other option. She got out and began walking, hoping she could still reach Jenkins's house. But the storm was blinding, and she could barely see her own hand in front of her. Soon she realized with a growing sense of dread that she was lost. Somewhere along the way, she had unknowingly turned onto a forest path and was now surrounded by towering, unfamiliar trees. Panic began to rise, but Amelia forced herself to stay calm. Thomas always said panic is the worst enemy in an emergency. She focused on finding shelter and decided to wait out the storm. Despite the increasingly strong contractions, she kept moving until a dark shape appeared in the snow. It was a small cave formed by fallen trees and stones. She squeezed inside and found it was just deep enough to shield her from the wind. It was cold and damp, but not nearly as brutal as outside. She knew she needed warmth. In her bag, she had a lighter, a farewell gift from her father, who passed away from lung cancer 3 years earlier. He always told her, never leave home without fire. Now his wisdom might save her. She scraped together some dry sticks from the cave's back and lit a tiny flame. It was small, but it gave her light and a bit of warmth, enough to carry And then the contractions hit harder. Amelia knew the moment had come. There was no more waiting. She would have to deliver her baby here alone. "Not yet, baby," she whispered, rubbing her belly. Just a little longer, but the baby didn't want to wait. The pain was coming faster, sharper. She laid out her jacket and lay down, doing her best to recall everything she had read and watched about childbirth. Thomas had insisted she prepare, just in case. Now that knowledge might make the difference between life and death. After an hour of excruciating labor, a strange noise came from outside. It wasn't the wind. It wasn't the wind or falling snow. It was the sound of footsteps, soft, deliberate paws crunching through the snow. Amelia held her breath as a large wolf's head appeared at the mouth of the cave. Their eyes locked, her deep brown ones meeting the yellow gaze of a predator. The wolf was a female, massive and commanding, with silvery gray fur. She looked like the leader of the pack. Fear gripped Amelia's heart. Wolves rarely attack humans, but right now she was weak, bleeding, and defenseless. Easy prey. Behind the alpha, more eyes emerged, glowing in the shadows. The pack had arrived. The lead wolf stepped forward, and in a panic, Amelia grabbed a burning stick from the fire, prepared to defend herself. But instead of attacking, the wolf stopped, lowered her head, and studied Amelia closely. Time stood still. Then something unexpected happened. The wolf walked toward her and lay down beside her, close enough that Amelia could feel her warmth. One by one, the others followed, circling around Amelia in quiet unity, forming a protective ring of fur and breath. Somehow, their presence soothed her. The fear melted away, replaced by a strange sense of peace. The she-wolf didn't look away. Her golden eyes held something ancient, something that felt like understanding. A sudden contraction curled Amelia's body in pain. The wolf stood and moved closer, sniffing her belly. Then, in an act both surreal and comforting, the animal began licking Amelia's trembling hands, as if offering support, comfort, and calm. The hours dragged on, and labor did not stop. Amelia feared the cold would take her and the baby before either of them had a chance to live. But the wolves seemed to sense her fear. A few of them slipped out into the storm and returned, each carrying bundles of dry sticks in their jaws, dropping them by the fire. With what strength she had left, Amelia fed the flames, and warmth returned to the cave. As the sky began to pale, the pain intensified. The baby was coming. She braced for the final push when the earth beneath her began to tremble. Snow and stone rained from above. One of the large rocks supporting the cave roof had shifted. The ground under it, softened by fire, could no longer hold. Collapse was moments away. The lead wolf sensed it first. She leapt up and let out a sharp howl. At her signal, the pack scattered, rushing for safety. Amelia tried to move, but a powerful contraction pinned her in place. With a thunderous crack, the stone gave way. In a flash, the she-wolf lunged, pushing Amelia toward the cave's entrance. The boulder crashed down where she'd just been lying. Dust and debris filled the air. Dazed, Amelia found herself outside, lying in the snow as the wolves regrouped around her. The storm had passed and the sky was soft with the promise of dawn. But there was no time to take it in. Another contraction hit. The baby was coming now. The she-wolf returned to Amelia's side, and the pack reformed their circle, standing guard. Moments later, Amelia gave birth to her child, and it was the she-wolf who approached the newborn first. Amelia watched, frozen, in fear, as the animal leaned down. But the wolf only bit through the umbilical cord with delicate precision, then began gently licking the baby clean, just as she would with one of her own pups. With shaking arms, Amelia took the infant girl and pulled her close. Dark wisps of hair peeked from under the baby's cap. She cried, a loud, healthy sound, and it was the most beautiful thing Amelia had ever heard. As the sun rose, Amelia sat beneath a tree, her daughter in her arms. The wolves remained close, silent and watchful. The she-wolf lay nearest, and Amelia reached out, placing a hand on her head. The animal didn't flinch. Instead, she leaned into the touch like a loyal dog asking for love. Their eyes met again, and this time Amelia was sure. The wolf was smiling. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice soft with awe. "Thank you for saving us." Just then, an engine roared in the distance. The wolves grew alert but didn't flee. A moment later, a military jeep broke through the trees and a man in uniform jumped out. It was Thomas. He stopped cold at the sight before him. His wife, their newborn child, and a circle of wolves. His hand instinctively reached for his pistol. "Thomas." "No!" Amelia cried out. "They saved us. They helped me give birth." His hand froze mid-air, hovering near his pistol. Slowly he lowered it, trying to make sense of the surreal scene before him. He took a cautious step forward, and the wolves parted to let him pass. They made room, not out of fear, but as if granting him permission. He knelt beside his wife and their child, his eyes wide with awe. "She's beautiful," he whispered, looking down at his daughter, then up at the she-wolf lying protectively nearby. "And you protected them?" he asked softly. The wolf didn't move. She held his gaze with calm assurance. There was no threat there, only quiet strength. Suddenly, a rustle from the trees made everyone freeze. From the forest, a massive bear emerged, awakened too early by the cave's collapse, hungry and disoriented. It reared up on its hind legs, drawn by the scent of blood. Thomas reached for his weapon, but there was no time. The she-wolf lunged first, teeth bared, and the rest of the pack followed with fierce howls. The clearing exploded into chaos, fur flying, snarls echoing through the trees. The bear fought back, powerful and enraged, but the wolves were relentless. Outnumbered and bleeding, the beast finally turned and lumbered away, vanishing into the forest shadows. But victory had a price. The she-wolf lay on the snow, blood seeping from her wounds. Thomas turned as the sound of engines approached. Paramedics from his unit rushed forward, gently taking Amelia and the baby into their care. He turned back to the wolf. The other wolves stood still, watching him. He moved slowly, carefully. No one stopped him. Taking off his jacket, he knelt beside her and wrapped it gently around her battered body. She didn't resist. Maybe she was too weak, or maybe she understood. "I know a good vet," he said softly to Amelia. "We can help her." And so they left the forest clearing, Amelia and her newborn in one ambulance, Thomas and the wounded wolf in another. At the edge of the woods, the remaining wolves stood in silence, their eyes glowing in the morning light like golden embers. They watched their leader go, vanishing down the snowy road. A year passed. Amelia sat on the porch of their new home at the edge of town, watching little Luna play in the grass. By her side, ever watchful, lay the silver-gray she-wolf. After that night, the wolf could not return to the wild. Her injuries had healed, but she walked with a limp, and her pack had long since disappeared into the mountains. So she stayed, not quite a pet, not quite wild. She showed no aggression toward people, only fierce, gentle love for the child she had helped into the world. Now and then the she-wolf would disappear into the woods for a few days, but she always returned to Luna. The story of that night spread far beyond the village, drawing visitors from all over. Some didn't believe it, others came hoping to see the bond for themselves, but Amelia knew the truth. She often thought of the night in the cave, of how two mothers, one human and one wild, had found each other in a moment of desperate need. No words were spoken, but something passed between them, an ancient understanding as old as the earth itself. Sometimes, after Luna had fallen asleep and the she-wolf lay curled beside the crib, Amelia would sit beside her and run her fingers through that silvery fur. In the wolf's golden eyes, she saw something unexplainable. Not just intelligence, but wisdom, something deep and timeless. Maybe we're not so different, she thought. Maybe the wild still lives inside us too, the instinct to protect our young no matter the cost. That instinct was what bound her to the she-wolf, and sometimes when the moon was full, the wolf would step outside, lift her head to the sky, and let out a long, lonely howl. Far in the distance, deep within the forest, other voices would answer. Her old pack, still remembering their leader. Amelia knew one day when Luna was older and the wolf's work was done, she would return to them. But until that day came, she would stay, close and watchful, guarding the little girl with the dark hair and bright eyes who had been born on a snowy night, surrounded by wolves.